or afternoon, or evening, midnight, whatever it is, wherever you are. Um, I'm Danny Gregory, and I would like to draw with you, or have you draw with me. I am not in my usual spot. Last week I was in Los Angeles, California. Well, yesterday there was quite a big earthquake. And today I am in Phoenix, Arizona, where it is unbelievably hot as usual. What's the temperature right now? It's only 92 degrees because it's only 10 a.m. But it will probably get up to 105, 110. So I am inspired by being in a different part of the country. Usually I'm in New York, as you may know, but today I am here in Phoenix visiting some family members and just checking out a different part of the world. I've never been to Arizona in July before, and my wife, who's from Phoenix, always kind of taunts me with it. She always says, well, wait until you really experience Phoenix in the summer. And you know, it's certainly unusual. It's unusual. It's you know, it's different, but it's not like New York heat. So I'm quite used to it now. It's quite nice. We have a big swimming pool, and we have air conditioning, and it's quite bearable. So thanks everybody who has joined me today. What I had in mind was to draw some birds. And let me tell you briefly why. First of all, I was inspired by the fact that I'm now visiting a city named after a bird, Phoenix. It's a legendary bird, of course. I don't know that it actually ever existed, but it rose from, from the flames. And, that inspired me. The flames are certainly appropriate. But also, there are a lot of birds here, and we're aware of the birds a lot. In New York, I love to study birds. I live by a park, and we have not that many different kinds of birds. There are certainly sparrows and pigeons and sparrows. Occasionally we have, the most exciting birds that we have is the red-tailed hawk that lives in Washington Square Park near us, which is a big predator, and that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have this giant bird that every day flies out and terrifies all the pigeons and the rats and the squirrels. But here in Phoenix, we have all kinds of birds I'm not really that familiar with. There are certainly a lot of mourning doves. There are parrots, and there are various other kinds of hummingbirds, all kinds of things. So I thought it would just be cool to just draw some birds. And I'm kind of going to be drawing them from my imagination. I'm sorry, can you hear this horrible noise? That noise is, I think it's the robot that vacuums my sister-in-law's house that seems to be grinding around and bumping into things. So if you'll give me 1 minute, I'll go and tell him to stop. But in the meantime, it would be great if you got your sketchbook together, your art materials. You might want to have certainly a pen, but you might want to have some colored pencils or some crayons or some markers. I'm going to be drawing on the iPad, as is my wont. And I'm drawing on the iPad, and also because when I travel now, I just like to have the compactness of the iPad. So, but let me just go and turn this robot is now entering the room, and I have to ask it to stop. So I'll be right back. Please stop. I guess this is the world we live in now. The world where robots interrupt YouTube live events. All right, good. So let's begin. I'm basically going to be working from my memory and imagination. I like to look at birds a lot. I don't know if you do. It's in part because you know, they're just part of nature. They're free. They're just here in the environment, which is interesting. But they're also they're dinosaurs. This is the thing that I've become obsessed with recently, which is the fact that birds are dinosaurs. You know, there's no two ways around it. You know, when you see a bird, it is so dinosaur-like, right? It's so dinosaur-like. It has, if you watch Jurassic Park and you watch the way that velociraptors walk. I was watching a crow a couple days ago walking down a pathway where I was sitting, and it was exactly that same stride and that same eye, the round eye with the I don't know, it's almost unblinking, kind of terrifying. And if you imagine a crow that was the size of a T-Rex, that would be one of the most terrifying things I could imagine. So anyway, dinosaurs. I haven't owned birds really since I was about 10 years old, and that was when I lived with my grandparents, and we had a bird cage. We had lots of different birds, so I studied them then too, but I've always been really interested in them. Just I think they're nicer when they're, or more interesting to me at least, when they're flying free. But I think they're just fascinating creatures. So I'm going to be trying to work from my, Thistle says that Archaeopteryx is the connector species, presumably between birds and dinosaurs. That's really interesting. Archaeopteryx. I've never heard of that before. I don't know what it looks like, but you know, I can believe it. So, all right, guys, let's start drawing some dinosaurs, and not dinosaurs. Let's just draw some birds. And let's begin with like a not terribly dinosaur-like bird, which is a chicken. Let's just start drawing a chicken. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to say, let us try and keep this to a minimum. In other words, like let's add the variable of time to this and draw fast. So let's see if we can draw, let's say 2 minutes, okay? So I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes, and we will go from there. So I'm just fiddling with my fancy watch, and I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes, and when it goes, I'll let you know. Okay, chicken. Here we go. Chicken is has sort of a, has a fat body with sort of tail feathers, and kind of a longish neck, and roundish head, and what else? They have these sort of little, I guess the drumstick, what that part is. I'm not sure if that's the biological term for it, but the drumstick. Yes, and I'm sure chickens wouldn't like to have it called that, but too bad. They are there for the eating. What else? Let's have a little beak, and my chicken, as you can see, has a small brain and a small head. And let's see what else I can give him. Of course, the whatever that thing is called. What is that thing called? I should know. Somebody help me out. What is that thing called? The sort of senior moment. And they have those little spurs at the back. And what else? I'm going to give him some sort of small wing. I mean, chickens can fly. They just basically don't. So, what else? Yeah, I think that's not bad for a chicken. Maybe my chicken has a bit of fanciness there. Nope. Yeah. There. All right. That's 2 minutes. We're done. We're done. Okay. Are we ready to try again? How did that come? Oh, comb and wattle. Comb. Exactly. Thank you. Wattle. Thank you very much. I lost my mind there for a minute. Okay, chicken. Let's move him into the corner and let's give him a friend. Let's try. How about a turkey? Turkeys are, you know, friendly. We all drew them. Remember when you drew them as a kid and you would start by drawing a hand? You know, you'd trace your hand, and that was sort of the outline for the turkey. You know, you'd have sort of like your fingers, and then you'd do that. Well, we're big professional artists now, of course, so we don't do childish things like that. But we could, if that's how you're so inclined. Let's see this chicken. These have sort of they always have those red faces and this horrible, I mean, really sort of disturbing, lumpy, pimply kind of necks, and that they definitely have wattles. There's no question about that. The wattle of a turkey. It's really kind of disturbing, I think. But their heads are sort of naked looking, really. And what else do they have? Well, it has a beak, of course. Some kind of beak. Make it a bit darker. And what else? An eyeball. Oops. They have wingishness. And they often will have this sort of little markers at the back. In fact, let me give this background a color, blue, teal. Yeah. What else? Quick, we're about to run out of time. Legs, of course. Sort of kind of big, disturbing legs. Just in general, turkeys are not attractive. They taste reasonably good, but they're not attractive. All right, that was our 2-minute turkey. Sounds like I'm running some kind of a cooking show now. All right, the 2-minute turkey. They said it couldn't be done, but there it is. All right, what next? A duck. Of course, a duck. Viaduct, you say? Did you ever see that movie? Groucho Marx, Viaduct. This is sort of a domestic duck. Maybe I'll draw a wild duck next. A wild duck. Longish neck. And roundish head. Forgot to set my timer. All right, you've got a few extra seconds. They have those webbed feet, so we gotta make sure we can give them the webbed feet, and sort of a longish bill, and an eyeball. I have a little bit of time because the duck I've made is kind of simpler, so let's give him some more fanciness, and clean him up a bit. Duck. I was having a big conversation yesterday 2 days ago with my brother-in-law, all about his passion for eating ducks. And I guess it was in Minnesota that they would go hunting these ducks and then they would eat them. I don't know, the whole thing sounded kind of horrifying to me, but ducks are, I guess they're fairly tasty. I haven't eaten one that many times, but there's something, when you think of ducks, you think of Donald, you think of, they're cute. I don't think of them as food first and foremost, but I guess that's kind of what they are. I've never eaten a duck's egg. That seems kind of horrifying as well. As you can see, despite my love of birds, I keep talking about how scary they are. I think that's the dinosaur thing again. The idea of eating dinosaur breast or something sounds really scary. So, yeah. So, all right. I think that's it. So, okay, so people are asking about iPad stuff, which is understandable. And I want you to know that I just finished editing, I think I finished editing the last of my Procreate course. So Procreate is this app here. I think it's a really phenomenal art tool, and it is the basis for this next course that I'm working on, which I'm going to be releasing, or we're going to be releasing in September. So that is going to be called, it's going to be called iPad Sketchbook. And I'm going to explain all the things that I've learned in the 2 years that I've been working with Procreate and the iPad. So that is what I'm doing now. All right, back to birds. All right. As I said, I've seen lots, or heard a lot of doves here, but no pigeons. But I think, as a New Yorker, we should honor our state bird. I don't know if it's a state bird, actually. That would be kind of scary. So anyway, so let's try drawing a. He's too dark. I think I'm gonna change this background color to something a little more forgiving. Let's just do something like brown. Okay. So yeah, pigeon. So pigeon has a small head, and it has sort of a reasonably graceful neck, and roundish body. Maybe that's a bit too round, or more like that. And then it has a wing, and it has sort of another thing that sticks out there. That's generally its shape. We'll refine that. Got to start the timer. Okay, 2 minutes. Here we go. So pigeons. I don't know. I don't mind pigeons, but my wife hates them. She thinks that they're just revolting. You know, I think I'm just so used to them as a New Yorker. I see them everywhere, constantly, and particularly since I live by Washington Square Park, which is, you know, a place that people come to take their pictures with pigeons and all kinds of things. And people think that they're really cute, which I don't really think they're cute, but you know, they're certainly prevalent, and they have sort of that kind of a situation. What else? They have, I'll give this guy some of that. And sometimes they'll have like a bluish green tint to them. You notice that let me just suggest that here. Oops. But what else? They have, it has a beak of some kind. And they have these legs that come down like that. Of course they have legs that come down like that. What else? I think a beak is probably more black, actually. And orange feet. So, all right, that's really crude, but we have 2 seconds. Dang it. All right, we've run out of time. All right, so there's the pigeon. What next? How about a goose? A goose. Kind of, again, round body. Little tail feathers. Really long neck. I mean, geese are, I don't know if you've ever spent time around geese, but they are scary animals. They are large, They are often angry, and they hiss. They will attack you. They are full-on mini dinosaurs. No, again, no question. And they're domestic dinosaurs too, which makes them even more terrifying. They have sort of a large beak, vicious beak, and beady eye. What else? They have large wings, and little sort of petticoat legs like that. Let's make him a bit smaller. Oops, I accidentally put him on the same level as this guy, the same layer. What else? They have web feet, sort of duck-like, and that's about it. Goose. I have an idea. Here's a cool idea. Watch this. So I'm going to take, for those of you who are interested in Procreate, or even if you're not, watch this, because it might convince you that Procreate is worth paying attention to. So I'm going to move this goose to another layer, and then I'm going to, so now the pigeon's on its own layer, the goose is on its own layer. I'm going to duplicate this, so we'll have 2 geese. So I'll put the domestic goose over here, and I'll take the pigeon and move him over here. And now this goose, here's the idea. Canadian goose. Canadian geese. Boy, those are, again, fairly terrifying. Whoops. I mean, you see them sort of crapping everywhere, right? I mean, they are, at least in the Northeast, they are so generic. And again, kind of terrifying, because they fly in enormous flocks. And what else they have? I guess they have black beaks, really, more than orange. Like that. This guy looks a little seagull-like. Alright, that'll have to do. And what else? They're not white. They are brown, like this color, I guess. And their feet are, I think they're black. They seem like they would be. I think they have white butts, as I seem to remember. Let's give this guy a white butt. All right, that's sort of a Canadian goose. Thank you, Canada, by the way, for sending those guys to sort of crap all over people's lawns here in America. But a great Canadian export, the Canadian goose. All right, that's not terrible. I wouldn't say that was the kind of thing you'd put in a dictionary, but pretty good. So, all right, here we go. What next? Okay, a crow. Let's do a crow. Let me remember the timer this time. You all ready for a crow? Okay. Crows are very smart. They're aggressive. They are thieves. They are the things of literature. Crows, ravens. I'm not sure what the difference is between a crow and a raven. Maybe you do. But they are. No, they're more like this, really, right? That's, the tail is more down. It's not. I've been drawing too many fowl. But ravens, they're actually even flatter, I think. Flatter. right. Really mean beaks, right? Really mean. Vicious beaks. I watched quite a lot of them in when I was in Florida recently, terrorizing other creatures by seeming to want to go and break into their nests. So we don't really get them in New York, but they have a lot of them out here on the West Coast, from what I've seen. Yeah, they have that kind of an eye, and look at gray feet, with long talons. And they're kind of greasy. I don't know if that's true, but they certainly have shiny. They're shiny. So, all right, time's up on the crow. Okay, crow. What next? How about flamingo? Speaking of Florida, flamingos are really unusual birds, aren't they? I mean, they're, first of all, the color, which is that. I think I'm going to make it even more iridescent. Let's go crazy. And then they have the feathers, sort of like that. Too crazy? Why not? All right, and then they have the neck. The neck that is, that is like that, right? That great, beautiful neck, graceful, like a swan, but much bigger. I'm not feeling entirely right about this. I think the head is a bit bigger, and then they have the kind of parrot-like thing. This is looking a bit swan-like. I'm not 100% happy with him. I think I'm going to compress him a bit and move him up. And then they have the, let's give him, what kind of, oh, the legs, are they, let's say they're brown. I'm not sure if that's correct, but they have the crazy legs that I'm sure you know, which go backwards. So they have these big joints, and then they have the legs that hinge backwards. I don't know of any other animal that has that. I'm not sure where that came about. It's interesting. All right, this guy he's not really in proportion, but you know that it's a flamingo, right? And that's the main thing. And let's give him just some. All right. Yeah. Okay. This may be the one I'm the least happy with. Let me just try and jazz him up a little bit. Have it some. All right. Going from bad to worse, but my 2 minutes are up. So there's your flamingo. Okay. Next. Ostrich. Ostrich, I think. Ostrich is sort of in the same ballpark. You know, a giant bird with I mean, these are interesting animals as well. They're one of those kind of animals that when you see them up close, they're so dramatic, and particularly if you see them running ever. And they have the super thick muscular legs that are they're really, they have short, very stubby sorts of feet, from what I remember. And what else they have? Well, They have a neck that's not, it's certainly not graceful like the flamingo, but it's longish. Longish. Head is a bit smaller, I think. And dark kind of bill. Beak. Bill. Beak. Toenails. Give him some toenails. For some reason he's got 4 toes on one foot and 3 on the other. But who am I to argue with that? I think the face is wrong. Let me just fix this. I think the faces should be stubbier. More, yeah, that's what it is. It's more graceful. And then, oh, I know. They also have, don't they have huge eyelashes? That's what I seem to remember. But my time is up for this guy, so yeah, that's kind of out of proportion. I think drawing these big birds is harder for me because I was used to drawing the stubbier, littler birds. But you could tell in the lineup what that was, right? Okay. Of course, a parrot. We're in Florida. Parrot. They do. They have huge eyeballs. It's true. They have giant eyes with long eyelashes. And that's how they always depict them in the cartoons. Not ostriches, I mean, not parrots. Parrot is more sort of traditional sized and has those long tail feathers, of course. And a head, roundish head. Their wings are, I think, more important than perhaps some of these other birds have in terms of trying to kind of capture them because they have all the beautiful colors on their wings. Yeah. And no, that's wrong. And then give him some leg action. I think he needs. Oh no, what happened? Siri is not available. I don't really care. There we go. I think these need to be longer. I think that doesn't look right. And then this needs to be longer too. So what do you guys think? Is this interested you in drawing on the iPad, seeing me do it, or has it terrified you or repelled you in some way? Those are both understandable reactions. But as you can see, I mean, I could probably not do drawings this quickly with any other medium. I don't think so. It's because I can pull up colors so fast that I can get things done really well and quickly. Unless, of course, it freezes. There we go. Time is up. I made his eye too big. Let me just fix his eye. All right. And sometimes they'll have that kind of treatment, right? Where there's like a beak. Does that look right? I don't know. My memory of... I don't know that much about parrots, I realize now. So... yeah. Sorry, gotta just get him onto his own layer. All right, I think this is the last one we'll do. Seriously ugly parrot, it's true. Thank you, Catalina. I agree with you. What's wrong with him? Is it... Let me just go back and look at him again, because he is troubling me. Is it his shape of his body? The size of his head? Maybe they have larger heads? Catalina, you were quick to critique me, so how about giving me some help here? I think it's this humpback that I've given him too. That hasn't helped. All right, as I'm trying to fix him, I'm just making the situation worse, so. So far you're all talking about the iPad, but nobody's telling me about parrots. So that is not helpful. I want some parrot info. The head is not big enough? Yeah, that does look better. All right, I'm done with this parrot. I'm going to do one more bird. And that bird is going to be a vulture. That would be good. A vulture. Vultures are, you know, you see them soaring over the highways in the West. The tail is too short and the head is too small. Yeah. All right, I'm done with him. I'm moving on to the vulture. Maybe you guys can give me some vulture tips. I'm sure that I will not know. I mean, I think I'll be influenced by cartoons probably more than anything else in drawing this guy, because the vultures always look like they look like sort of minister. What do they call them? Yeah, like a pastor from a western, right? They always have this sort of they have like they're black frock coats, and they have a little, like, what almost looks like a collar, right? That's what I remember of them. And then that's not really the right color. Pink. Really ugly, bumpy heads. Let me just get rid of this parrot, which is on the same layer for some reason. All right, back to my vulture here. Just make him ugly. That's exactly right. They have this kind of knobbly head and a big beak, right? That's kind of like that sort of thing, big and ugly. And they have like some hairs sort of sticking out of it, right? Kind of hairs, eyeball that's sort of more sinister looking, and what else? He's definitely a cartoon character, this guy. Is that correct? Yeah, they have. The legs are not terribly long. I'm sure they have ugly feet. And yeah, that's sort of vaguely what it is, I think. Thinner neck, maybe. All right. There he is, the vulture. I don't know, maybe I should have done this whole thing with a bit more research and understanding of what the hell these birds look like, but that was fun trying to remember, I think that that's a good exercise, which is to do, to kind of try and remember what the hell things look like. Because I do look at them quite a lot, but, it's always different, of course, when you're drawing them and you're trying to remember stuff about them, and you're trying to remember details, because that's really the key, is the details. All right, there you go. So how many birds is that? 3, 9, 10, 11 birds. 2 minutes apiece. I hope you had a chance to do something similarly impressive with your time here. That felt good. That felt, I feel like I'm aerobic. I was moving. That was really fast. Let me just see what you've been saying in the meantime, because I haven't really had a chance to think of birds, draw birds, watch my timer, and read what you've said. So let me just see what you have to say. Gail's going to get, so definitely Procreate, I mean, you can draw anything with it, but birds, there's something about what I like about working with Procreate in a case like this is you're reducing them to essentials. So I think if I was doing it with watercolor, I would get more fiddly and I would worry more about the texture. I like working with flat colors when I'm just trying to think of not volume or lighting or anything like that, but I'm just trying to think of the essential elements. So yes. What else? Thank you very much. That was very nice of you to say. It was fun. It was fun to make them. I was interested to see how they would turn out also. And Alice is wondering what a bird is. That's the thing, is when you start looking at them and you start looking at their features, the things that make them up, and then you start looking at the way that they move. And I haven't even dealt with when they're flying. I mean, I thought about, should I draw a hummingbird? But hummingbirds are almost insignificant when they're not flying, but when they are flying, they are magical. If you've never seen a hummingbird, it's hard to believe that they're actual things. They look like little flying machines that were made by Apple or something. Like they're so fast and they dart from one place to the other. It's hard to imagine that was something that nature kind of came up with as a thing. So anyway, so when you're dealing with movement, it's a whole other world. But I think what's interesting about birds is they do, as you say, they challenge your preconceptions, and particularly when you do this sort of thing where you try and compare what does a goose look like versus a duck. These are all things that we drew as children, right? We colored them, we saw them in books, but then when you sit down and really think about the elements of them, it's a great eyeball training exercise to just sort of keep you thinking about what you're seeing in general. And again, if those of you who are thinking about learning about Procreate, giving yourself an assignment like this, I've talked about this before, but the first year that I got into Procreate, I did a couple of things. One is I copied a lot of drawings by artists I like, particularly Felix Scheinberger, whose artist I really like, and I copied a lot of his drawings using the iPad, trying to recreate his pencil and watercolor techniques and see if I could somehow translate those into digital form. But I also created dogs, and every day I did a dog, and I did 140 or 150 of them. Each day a different breed, each day a different style. So not just like I just did with birds, the same thing. No, I did dogs that look like cartoon characters. I did dogs that look like oil paintings that look like Monet. I did several Monet dogs. I did David Hockney dogs. I did dogs that look like they were carved out of wood. I just tried to simulate as many different things, and somehow having that consistent it's a dog theme kept me going, kept me not having to wonder what should I do, but just it was a project and I just kept working. So it is that. What does Laura say? She says it's difficult to draw long because you can get rid of mistakes so easily on drawing with pen. It's true. My suggestion: don't make mistakes. I rarely make them, and as you know, and everything I do is perfect. So I have that advantage over you. I'm joking, of course. But yeah, it's true. If I was drawing this with a pen, I would not be able to move as quickly, and I certainly wouldn't be able to bring color into it. So again, that's one of the things that I like about it. But I have to say it is something that has affected my pen drawing with Procreate. It's just given me more fluidity and confidence in my line. So Procreate isn't necessarily just about Procreate. It's about just sharpening your drawing skills, sharpening your observational skills. To me, the biggest thing, and I'm going to talk a lot about this in my new course, color. Thinking about color differently, having control over color, and doing things that are just much more interesting to me than watercolor and pencil alone have been. And also, as you saw, even in this, I'm working in shapes as well as line. So the birds that I drew begin with a shape, a solid shape that I fill in, and then I add stuff on top of it. So all those things are just changing and polishing my overall drawing and art making skills. I think that bringing in other tools to expand your view of the world, that's part of what learning to make art is. That's part of what expanding your creativity is. I think people who are saying to themselves, I'm not interested in digital things because I'm interested primarily in analog art making. I understand that. Honestly, I came from the same place. I don't particularly like the look of digital art, and I think that there have been, we spend a lot of time in front of computers and our phone and so forth, so one more reason to play with computers is not necessarily a plus. I understand all those things. And again, in making this course, I've thought about that, and I actually wrote a bunch of essays that I'm going to include that are just talking about, like, what does it mean to make art with a computer? What does it do to our creativity? And also, finally, I think what's interesting to me about this is that we are at a point in the development of art where we have a whole new medium that shouldn't just be used to simulate what we can do with other media. It has its own qualities. It has its own language, and language that I think fits in very much with the way we live, the way we are right now. I'm talking to you through a computer. You're watching me on your phone or on an iPad or on a computer. This is very much a part of our life, and that's very different from painting with oil, which is, painting with oil on canvas is something from the Renaissance. Painting with watercolor on paper is something from the 18th century. So what are we going to do in the 21st century? We can certainly build and rely and use the tools of the past, but I think it's okay. I think it's interesting. I think it's part of what we do as artists, which is to work in our time too. So anyway, as you can see, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this, talking about it, and trying to put all these things I've been thinking about over the last couple of years into some form that I can share with you, and that's what I've been doing. So, Thistle's right. Painting the visceral feeling of taking oil paint onto a brush off a palette and rubbing it onto rough canvas is, it's aesthetic, but it's also sensual, and I think that that's part of what we do too. There's a certain sensual quality to rubbing a rubber tip over a sheet of glass, as I've been doing for the last hour. It has its qualities too, but I certainly don't mean to say that this replaces it. No more than I would say, don't use gouache because then you won't use watercolor. Don't use a colored pencil because then you won't use a pen. These are all of our tools. These are our toys to play with. You don't have to decide, and you don't have to give anything up to explore and to create. So anyway, Missy says that she is not used to drawing quickly. Well, we've done that once before where we drew portraits in 2 minutes a couple months ago. I think it's really fun. I think it is something that we do in life drawing class. You get the opportunity to do that. to have timed drawings, but you can also set that up for yourself. You can just say, and the combination of working quickly and working from your imagination, it's almost like a physical exercise, right? Where you're stretching yourself, you're working sort of aerobically, and you're thinking and you're pulling your stuff from your imagination, and you'll start to realize the limitations of your imagination, saying like, I just don't know what these things look like. And you might say to yourself, I want to hone that skill. I want to have better powers of observation. Maybe I should pay attention more to X, Y, or Z. Sitting down to draw a car is interesting. You know, we see cars all the time. Sit down and draw one. Sit down and draw one from the side, and then try and draw one from the front or at a 45-degree angle. Maybe that's something we'll do in the future. Cars are a real challenge to us because there are certain things that we notice: the wheels, the headlights, the windshield. And there's a lot of things we don't notice: the proportions, the length of the hood, the length of the roof, the height of the doors. These are all things that you really need to slow down and look at a car to figure that stuff out. And it can be a real challenge because there's a lot of long straight lines that are uninterrupted by landmarks, and so therefore you don't really know intuitively how long to make a certain part of it, and your cars can end up looking out of proportion. So to take a thing like that, a subject like that, and to just concentrate on it, you're not trying to make great drawings. That's not the point of any of this. It's to stretch your mind, to increase your brain's capacity to engage with the world, and to become a more in tune person, and also to take time to have a meditative experience. Kosha talked about this last week in Draw Tip Tuesday. The power of what was it this week? The power of drawing to slow you down, engage you in the moment, and focus you. It's something that we can do sitting cross-legged on a yoga mat, but we can also do it with a pen or a paper or an iPad or whatever it is in our hand, and just looking around us at the world. So anyway, sorry to go on and on. Maybe I'm being affected by the temperature here, and I have a lot of thoughts. So thank you for joining me again today. And if you've done some birds and you'd like to share them with me on social media, do something like #drawwithme. Although I have seen that there's other things that are called #drawwithme, so I don't really know if that means your drawings will get lost. I hope not. I'll try and look for them. But you can also post them on the Sketchbook School page in the group, on the schoolyard certainly. You could email them to me. You could post them on Instagram. My tag is @DannyObadiah. If you don't know me on Instagram, that's it, Danny Obadiah. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and it's starting to get hot out now, so I think I'm gonna go and start thinking about lunch. Maybe I'll have chicken or turkey or pigeon or parrot or vulture, a vulture sandwich on rye, vulture lightly smoked, mayo, mustard. Sounds good. Okay, so the Procreate class will start in September. We're finishing up the colored pencil class now. We're about to begin the urban sketching class. We're rerunning that. Perfect class for nice days when you can go outside and draw. So think about that. If you're in Phoenix, we're going to be meeting on Tuesday. I set up an event, but we're going to all get together, and I'll show you my birds, and you can show me whatever you've drawn. And we're going to have a beer together on Tuesday, and I think at 5:30 at a place called The Deuce here in Phoenix. And I will be going back to New York next week, and then I'll be going to Amsterdam, and who knows where after that. Thanks for joining me. See you next week. I think I'll be able to do it on Thursday. I'm not sure. I may be traveling, but I'll let you know. Look for it here. Okay? Thanks so much, and have a great week.